So today we are going, or tonight, we are going to talk about We Have Always Fought as the kind of rubric, as the kind of main theme for this first of our shows on warrior women. And that comes from an article that Dawn shared with me and that she's going to share with you about the narrative about women as warriors and the notion of, you'll hear it on different of the podcasts we've had. It's a running theme that history of women warriors is just erased in so many cases. And so, Dawn, why don't you take it from there?
Okay. So the article that I'm going to read from here, with full credit to the author is Kameron Hurley with a K, Kameron, last name Hurley, Hurley. The article was published originally in 2013, and it is a brilliant article, was later developed into a book. And I strongly recommend that you look it up because it's a very long article and I'm only going to read the very beginning of it. But it's brilliant.
It really is an amazing article.
Yeah. So it starts again. We Have Always Fought by Kameron Hurley. I'm going to tell you a story about llamas. They will be like every other story you've heard about llamas, how they are covered in fine scales, how they eat their young if not raised properly, and how at the end of their lives they hurl themselves lemming-like over cliffs to drown in the surging sea. They are at heart sea creatures, birthed from the sea, married to it like the fishing people who make their livelihood there. Every story you hear about llamas is the same. You see it in books, the poor, doomed baby llama getting chomped up by its intemperate parent. On television, the massive tide of scaly llamas falling in a great, majestic herd into the sea below. In the movies, badass llamas smoking cigars and painting their scales in jungle camouflage. Because you've seen this story so many times, because you already know the nature and history of llamas, it sometimes shocks you, of course, to see a llama outside of these media spaces. The llamas you see don't have scales, so you doubt what you see. And you joke with your friends about those scaly llamas, and they laugh and say, yeah, llamas sure are scaly, and you forget your actual experience. What you remember is the llama you saw who had mange, which sort of looked scaly after a while, and that one llama who was sort of aggressive toward a baby llama, like maybe it was going to eat it. So you forget the llamas that don't fit the narrative you saw in films, books, television, the ones you heard about in the stories. And you remember the ones that exhibited the behavior the stories talk about. Suddenly, all the llamas you remember fit the narrative you see and hear every day from those around you. You make jokes about it with your friends. You feel like you've won something. You're not crazy. You think just like everyone else. And then there came a day when you started writing about your own llamas. Unsurprisingly, you didn't choose to write about the soft, downy, non cannibalistic ones you actually met because you knew no one would find those realistic. You plucked out the llamas from the stories. You created cannibal llamas with a death wish, their scales matted in paint. It's easier to tell the same stories everyone else does. There's no particular shame in it. It's just that it's lazy, which is just about the worst possible thing a writer can be. Oh, and it's not true. So she goes on to talk about the history of women, and how she wanted to do her master's thesis on women resistance fighters. And when she found these women resistance fighters in South Africa as part of the ANC's militant wing, she was so stunned. She thought it was this incredibly exceptional and singular example of women taking up arms. And then she talked to her thesis advisor, and he started to enlighten her about the incredibly rich history of women warriors. So I love this article. And again, I strongly urge that you look up the article and read the whole thing. But I love this article because it so aptly describes how so many of us disbelieve that women ever did anything in all of the history of the globe. If women are not doing that thing on our television, in our literature, then they clearly could never have done it. And that's just not true.